What's happening, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Fighting Words. Finally, Anthony and I have been combating several issues on the tech side here this morning, so we're coming to you
All
6 minutes later. No, I'm not putting the blame on you. It was a little bit of an odyssey to get here, but we are here after the Phillies 4-game sweep of the New York Mets. A week of vindication for Anthony Sanfilippo. Phillies have now buried the Mets. The NL East is over. You can say it's a jinx or whatever. It's not. It is over. The magic number to win the division for the Phillies is 5 this morning. They have a 4.5 game lead for second place or the second spot in the NL, and they're now right on the heels of the Milwaukee Brewers. Anthony, pretty good week for Phillies, man.
Yeah, you could say that again. And there is something a little bit different about this team right now. Like, we've seen this before, right? We've seen this team get hot. We've seen them, play great baseball for a stretch, an extended period of time, beat good teams. Like, we've seen all of this before. But there's something to be said for what they're doing right now and how they're doing it, and doing it in the face of adversity. I mean, as Chris points out, they just swept the Mets with no Trey Turner, no Alec Boehm, and I would add in no
one of
Zach
those
Wheeler.
things is not like the other, but yeah,
and I would add in no Zach Wheeler too, and they got great starting pitching throughout. And even last night when Luzardo had a terrible first inning, he then retires 22 in a row. I can't fathom that.
I heard a stat this morning, and I don't know if it was part of the Phillies post-game notes where this came from, but Jesus Luzardo last night, or I guess the Mets, by extension, were the first team in the history of baseball to score 4 runs in the first inning and then not have a base runner for the remainder of the game in a loss. I mean, that's hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering, John Smoltz said it on the broadcast last night. I was told he said it. You were watching, I was there, so I didn't hear it. But I was told at one point, he said, I wonder if a pitcher's ever given up 4 runs in the first inning and then gone on to throw a complete game. And the answer to that is probably yes. In historical times, back when pitchers used to throw
old Bill McGillicuddy, 8 fingers McGillicuddy, and
one of those guys, right? So, but it got me thinking, like, when was the last time a Phillies pitcher actually got 22 outs in a row? And like, my initial thought was Halladay, right? But it actually turns out, I did the research, and it was Zach Wheeler actually against the Mets. You may remember this game. August 8th, 2021. It was the day that they retired Halladay's number at Citizens Bank Park, and he threw a 2-hit complete game shutout.
Yeah, I made Joe Girardi cry after the game. I asked him a question, and he teared up.
Yeah, he gave up a leadoff double, got the next 22 batters in a row. Then there was a walk, and then he gave up a hit in the 9th inning, but 2-hit complete game shutout, and that was the last time. So, but but that was a game where Wheeler was dominant from Jump Street. Luzardo looked like he wasn't going to get through the second inning.
No,
and
he did not.
Then dominated the Mets thereafter. So that's a fascinating pitching performance, but just all around, Bob. I mean, it was all 4 starting pitchers were great. The lineup was really good. The outfield all of a sudden has gone from the biggest weakness of this team to one of its strengths. It's just right now things are a little bit different with this team. It feels a little bit different right now. And I'm starting to believe a little bit more in where they are, especially in the lot of how things are in baseball in general. They may very well be the best team going into the playoffs.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack, and it's all good right now. I mean, let's start with Luzardo. I thought what was interesting about last night, it was the latest example in which you see that he can go out and just utterly dominate an opponent. And that's why I'm an advocate, even though there's a little bit of a blow-up potential, even though there's a little bit of a wild card nature in what he gives you. He has been more consistent lately. And the thing that was most impressive, and this is not exactly a earth-shattering take, but you see when things go wrong for Jesus Luzardo, a lot of times it really goes wrong and he can't stabilize. And I know he's a passionate guy. He's an energetic guy. And I think at times this season that's worked against him. For him to come back from that start last night and really stabilize and give them the game that he gave them, I think is a huge plus, a huge positive about how you feel. Again, you get into a playoff situation. What happens if the first inning's a little bit rocky? Like, is he going to break or is he going to punch back? And last night he punched back. And I think that you take that and you put that in the plus column for when you decide, are we going to use this guy in the postseason as a starter or not, which is something that they are evaluating in real time. I mean, after the game last night, Ken Rosenthal led with that. Like, hey, there's a lot of talk about how the Phillies are going to line up the rotation in October. Like, what do you think about yourself right now and how you're going? Like, this is a talking point. And I think last night he made a very strong case for himself to be one of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely he did. And that was the most impressive part about it, Bob, was, and I asked Rob about this after the game. I said, earlier this year, he would have a bad inning and the game would go sideways on him. And when you look at it, I broke down these numbers too. I'll tell you what Rob said in just a second. I broke down these numbers too. He's made 30 starts for the Phillies this year. 26 of the 30, he's given up 4 runs or less, and yet has an ERA higher than 4.
Yeah.
Right. So those 4 starts that were terrible were god awful. But even in the 4 games that he gave up 4 runs, right, those games were shorter outings because he let an inning or 2 get away from him, had a lot of traffic, got a little bit emotional in the game. Remember the game up in New York against the Mets where he started barking at the umpire. He got thrown out as he was getting removed from the game. Like, so there are a lot of things like that with Luzardo. And Rob said last night, he said, I think he's learned a few things. And I think he's worked on it and realized that you can only worry about the next pitch and everything you do going forward and not think about what just happened. And that control what you can control. I know it's a very cliche thing, control the controllables, right? But it's really to the point where he has to just let go. Hey, it was a bad inning, but they still need me to throw at least 4 or 5 more. Turns out he ended up throwing 7 more yesterday. I got to go out there and do a job and keep this team in the game, give him a chance to come back. And boy, did he ever do it. So that's a big step for Jesus Luzardo as a pitcher, and something that the Phillies can look at and go, okay, maybe he can do this in the postseason when the pressure is at its greatest.
Yeah, and look, I mean, if you just look at what happened this week overall, I begged, and I know you downplay it, and the Phillies downplay it, and I understand it. It wasn't necessarily about it being the Mets. It's about where they are in terms of the race in the division and trying to secure a bye, which is critically important for this team. You have to go out and at least split, and really, I think that this was a series where they needed to win 3 of 4 for a variety of reasons. Not to mention the fact that the Dodgers did take care of business against the Rockies this week in a 3-game sweep. So this was an important series for the Phillies and if you're the Dodgers right now, I know you're going to get a crack at the Phillies at home next week, but you have to be thinking to yourself, like, okay, we just put together a sweep at home and we lost a half a game over the last 4 days. I mean, that's a tough thing psychologically for the Dodgers. They're still 4 games back in the loss column, the Phillies, in terms of the bye. But the Phillies this week, I think, number one, you always said it was about the park and not about the Mets. And you're right, but I do think to some degree the fans needed to see the Phillies just beat the piss out of the Mets this week. I think that is something that everyone needed to see.
There's no question. You could see it. You could see it actually just in the comments that we've gotten so far. I mean, you got Con Man coming on saying, go Phillies, muck the Fets. And he follows up saying, I almost never do this, but I actually broke down and went to the Mets subreddit to read the post-game thread after the game last night.
Yeah, it was fun to watch those conversations, those dialogues take place about this team's cooked next year. I mean, because there was so much, even where they were at in the standings after that sweep up in New York a couple of weeks ago, there was a lot of people puffing out their chest about the Mets and how they own the Phillies. And so the Phillies still have the Citi Field thing that they're going to have to deal with at some point. Doesn't look like it's going to be this season. Doesn't look like it's going to be this October, but we'll see. Maybe. I think that right now you can kind of put the Mets own the Phillies thing to bed after this week. And it was just the nature in which they did it. And every game
Steve points out, he's quoting you, by the way, Bob, from the other day. Yeah. Bury these guys, they stink. Bob Wankel, September 8th, 2025. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I've been saying less lately. I don't know if you've noticed that. I've been saying less. Someone actually reached out to me last night, one of our listeners, and like, you've been very quiet on Twitter. Like, what's up? And I haven't responded to him yet, but I'm very busy. Like in my own life, I'm living with my parents right now as we're waiting to move into a house in 2 weeks. I got sick kids. It's been nuts. So I just haven't had time for the Phillies hot takes on Twitter. How long until a radio host asks if the Phillies have peaked too soon? That probably will happen today. That might happen this afternoon.
That's a Rush Joy question, of course.
I'm glad he brought that up because it sort of dials me back into the point that I want to make. If you look at these teams since 22, each team's been a little bit different. And I think that you could make the argument, and I'll table the Wheeler injury for a second, and kind of work under the presumption that Trey Turner will be back in the playoffs. I think at this point in the middle of September, this is about as good as you could feel about any of these teams over the last 4 years. Because in 22, I know that we all feel so fondly about that team, but people were done with that team in September. It was the same old Phillies. They were about to collapse, and they finally break through when they're down in Houston and get in. But there was not a lot of optimism about a lengthy Phillies run in 22. 23, maybe a little bit more expectation, but the conventional wisdom was that the Braves were going to come get them this time. They weren't going to let that happen again. Last year, obviously, they run away with the division. They win 90 whatever games. But we all felt it a little bit, right? Like, hey, this team's been largely mediocre for 3 months now. Are they going to be able to flip the switch? There was a lot of concern about the way that team felt. I mean, so much so that you missed a show last September, and your son and I were on here talking, and I ended up pivoting back the other way. So ended up being wrong. I ended up being wrong, so I can't pat myself on the back. But I said to your son, I was like, dude, I wouldn't want to play the Mets in a playoff series. I think the Mets are going to beat the Phillies in a playoff series. And he agreed. Like, we all kind of felt it, like in our gut somewhere, that might not end well. That team didn't really give you a lot of reason to believe. Right now, in this moment, things could change. It feels different. It does feel different. I don't mean just because they're winning games, but it feels fun right now. It feels like there's a certain energy with this team that they did not play with for a large part of last year, and certainly for a large part of this year. It just feels different. And they've gone through win streaks. They've gone through good stretches where they've played quality baseball. This just has a different, we'll bring back the V word. This has a different vibe. It does have a different vibe. And I think a lot of it has to do with the center fielder.
No question. It's been the most impactful addition for any team at the deadline.
I said kiddingly, but not. I was like, hey, hot take. I think that Harrison Bader's been more important than Jhoan Duran. And Duran's been awesome. Yeah. But that right now, I mean, and by the way, Duran was awesome last night. Like,
well, I want to get into something with him because there's something interesting there.
Wait, but man, that was like a blow your doors off ninth inning. Awesome stuff. But yeah, I mean, look, Bader, the production is unsustainable. He's not this good, but he's been awesome. Just the flair, the way that he plays, it's just a different juice that this team so desperately needed.
No, and there's no doubt about it. And it's not just the way he's playing on the field. It's an energy that he's kind of brought to the clubhouse. And it was that same kind of energy. And I talked to Garrett Stubbs about this. Because Stubbs knows Bader. They're obviously, Bader was supposed to be on Team Israel 2023, but he had an injury, had to pull out of playing for them. He's going to play for them in the World Baseball Classic in 26. But they know each other pretty well. And so I asked Stubbs about it. I'm like, listen, I said, you're a guy who kind of has a sense for what players mean to a clubhouse, in the clubhouse, right? Not necessarily out on the field. And he said it's the biggest thing. He says you don't think about it. He says people laugh about it when you talk about it, but when you're playing 162 games and you're playing this every day and you come in, it can kind of get monotonous. And he said you need personalities in a clubhouse to kind of break up that monotony, to kind of change the vibe. And he says, you want to make fun of it, but it's legit. And he says, when you look at what they've brought in here, he said, David Robertson's a guy that's like that. Very, very fun loving, outgoing, outspoken. There's a lot of people who believe that he might've been the guy who cut the cheese behind Aaron Nola.
I have that smile.
Yeah. So that happens. And then you bring in Bader, who's very much the same kind of energy guy, and he keeps the clubhouse light. You bring Stubbs back after September 1st, and there's a lot of fun going on in that clubhouse afterwards now with the smoke machines and everything else. It's all happening again. It feels like 2022 all over again because of the addition.
Phillies fans are, myself included, like are sort of like miserable by nature these days. And I just can't believe, I can't believe the reaction of Garrett Stubbs coming back. Like there is something to be said for, hey, you didn't have a more meaningful player to bring up here to help bolster this team. And I know that people are tired of the way that the clubhouse needs to feel, or the certain emotional or aspect, or the energetic aspect of it, because they haven't won the World Series. And that was such a big talking point about this team. And it hasn't cashed in. So people don't want to hear it anymore. Doesn't make it less true though. I mean, everything that you're saying, I very much believe in. I believe that guys that enjoy each other, that have fun with one another, that are bolstered by it. Doesn't mean you have to have 26 clowns in the clubhouse, but you need some of that, because the weight and the grind and the cadence of a season can crush you, especially when you're playing with the burden of great expectations and in the ghosts or in the shadows of playoff disappointments over the last number of years. You know that weighs on these guys. And I think for a lot of points, it has not looked fun. It hasn't looked fun. You can win games. Like the Phillies have had good stretches this season, and it didn't look fun. It didn't look like they were necessarily enjoying it. And, now it does. And I think part of that is because you're getting contributions from multiple places. Like, it's not just that, Harrison Bader showed up in center field, now everything feels different. But I think that's the starting point, the catalyst of it.
Yeah, there's no question. By the way, Robert Maurer says we got to stop because we're giving him hope. But no, you're 100% right. I mean, if you've ever been on a team, you understand that kind of intangible, right? Like it's not why it's important for a team to have that kind of feeling about each other. There have been teams that have gone out there that have been successful to an extent, but never got over the top because they didn't really particularly like each other, or didn't particularly like being around each other.
It took me a while to buy into that at the highest levels. Like, having been around high school baseball, the better teams that I've been around are the ones that loved each other. Like, that really played for one another, that wanted to see other guys succeed. Like, they were able to say, like, hey, I want to perform and I want a chance to play. But if I'm not, and I'm not getting that opportunity today, I want this kid to do well. I want, like, and that's a youth sports thing. That's a high school sports thing. But I think that there's something to be said for it, that it can, even with all the money and all the expectations and all the eyeballs and all those shows and content, like, it's at the core of it, it's still sports. It's still human beings.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, a guy who doesn't get enough credit for that is Brandon Marsh. He's always been a guy that is, when he's not in a lineup, is out there cheering on the guy.
That goes back to Jhoan Rojas. I mean, even when Rojas was taking his playing time, I mean, Brandon Marsh is always a top step guy cheering him on. And look, I mean,
you're getting this buy-in from all the outfielders, Bob. Yeah. I mean, you didn't think you were going to get it from Castellanos because he was a bit mopey for a while, but even he's turned it around. Yeah. And he's playing well now.
He's contributing when he plays.
And he's part of it, right?
I give him a lot of credit, because he could have continued. He could have continued down that road, like the mopey, like I'm not happy. I'm not going to be disruptive, but I'm also going to let you know that I'm not thrilled. And I'm sure he's not thrilled, and he shouldn't be. Like, he shouldn't be, because as a competitor, you want to be on the field. But I think that I'll give the Phillies credit this way. I mean, we were banging the table for months to, like, hey, you gotta pull the plug on this everyday Castellanos thing. This just didn't make sense anymore. But it was easier to do because they didn't really have viable options, or at the time you didn't think they had viable options to kind of to platoon him. I think had they did this in the end of July, it might have been received differently. It's like a soft landing. Like, I think for a while they saw the writing on the wall, like a declining player, a guy who can still help them, but he's certainly not what they had hoped he'd be or what he was. And I think that they just said, we've got to land the plane slowly here. Like, we can't just go hard stop. Guess what? We're changing your role. I think that would have had significant ramifications, negative ones. So I think the way that they did it was smart and prudent. I also give Max Kepler some credit. Now, here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to apologize to Dave Dombrowski for signing Max Kepler. We all criticized you. We were all banging the DFA drum 5 weeks ago. I now ask for forgiveness. Max Kepler's done a really nice job. He's played very well lately. They were right to keep him. I give them credit when everyone said the obvious move is to move on. They didn't. However, this is still not a good contract. It has still not been a good year for him. You have to look at the entirety of the picture. Now, if he continues his surge through October and helps them win a world championship, we'll love him forever. And that's awesome. Doesn't make this a good signing, though. This was not a good signing. He's still far below average when you look at the cumulative picture here.
I thought he gave some great answers the other night where he said that he got too caught up in the individual and not enough in the team. And he said, I don't mean that in a selfish way, but he says, but it was kind of a situation where I've been in one place for my whole career. And now I'm all of a sudden in a new environment. And I feel like I have to make an impression. And he said, and I maybe held on to that too long. And like, so he was very, very self-aware of what the situation was for him. And that once he got past the deadline, he said, I breathed a sigh of relief, because there was conversation, this has come out since now, that the Phillies were thinking of replacing Kepler with Justin Crawford, and then chose not to do it. They chose to give him a little bit more time to see if after the deadline something changed. And it did. Well, it changed.
One thing that, I certainly did not see this coming, but I did say it's like when we talked about how is Crawford not up here, you look at the production. And the one thing I noted at the time was that what does this team need? Like, where are they deficient? And it's pop. It's the ability to drive the baseball. And though he has struggled, even when he was not playing well, like there was still some semblance of power there. And right. So to remove that tool even further from a lineup that needs more home runs outside of Kyle Schwarber, I think was something that really gave the Phillies pause and probably should have. And again, I'll give the Phillies credit on this front. Like, they didn't go to Crawford. Now, I don't know what that means in terms of Justin Crawford's future next year. Probably nothing. I think he'll be up here, I guess. But on this team this year, it would have been very easy for the Phillies to move on and go in a different direction. They didn't, and it's paying off right now. And in doing so, you're getting not only more production, but you're getting buy-in from all the pieces, which is not an easy thing to do. And so where I'll say this, like, all the people are like, Rob Thompson sucks, he's an idiot, they should fire him. This is what a good manager does. This is what a good front office does. They navigate the human element, and they also go out and make additions and they make the right moves. And the Phillies have had big time misses that are worthy of criticism. But when you want to blow all these guys out the door after a couple bad weeks, think about this now.
Yeah.
Not every team maneuvers this way. Not every manager would have handled this situation the way that Rob Thompson did. Now, that doesn't mean that he might not make some catastrophic mistake and use the wrong bullpen arm in a key situation 5 weeks from now, and we're all ripping our hair. I'm not saying that he's perfect, but like in a sport where the tactical decisions of the manager have been minimized, this is what you have to be good at. And maybe I'm over-crediting him in this instance, but I think it says something that there were a lot of tricky situations. We're sitting here on September 12th, and it all looks like it was done the right way.
Yeah, I agree, Bob. And I wonder if the Phillies, I don't even know if they need to pass the Brewers, to be honest with you, for this to happen. But considering what they've had to navigate this year, from injuries, losing your best pitcher, then losing Turner for a little while, losing Harper for as much time as they did earlier in the season, having Alvarado suspended, and potentially finishing with the best record in baseball. How is Rob Thompson not
the manager of the year?
The manager of the year in the National League. I mean, I know Pat Murphy's had a great year with Milwaukee. I don't want to take anything away from him, but I think that this is something that really needs to be considered.
Well, I think a lot of times it's like, payroll. Look at the payroll. Look what he did with that payroll. Look at what this guy did with that payroll. I'll actually make the point that I think sometimes the payroll it makes your job harder.
Yeah.
I mean, you're dealing with a $20 million player who's on the decline, or a guy who's signed here who is now angry that he's not being used the way that he thought that he was going to be used here. Like, you have a different set of problems when you deal with players that you're sort of committed to financially. And it's not like all these big contracts have gone out there and been awesome all year. And he's just sitting back and going like, huh, I mean, he's had to make this work. So I think it would be a mistake to just say, oh, look at how much they're spending. I could run that team. I think it's much more complicated than that.
Yeah. By the way, Kyle Seiler made me chuckle during your Matt Kepler monologue. And when he said Kepler's going to end up being the World Series MVP.
I don't know. I mean, it's funny. People are like, you're giving me hope. And I think we've had a little bit more of a, I don't want to say negative outlook on where this is going to end up, but I've long said I don't think that this team's going to win the World Series, not just because the probability of any team winning the World Series, you would take the field typically. I will say, I mean, it's prompted by the Jason Stark comments this week, talking to rival GMs, people around the sport. A lot of them are saying that the Phillies are the best team that they have faced. And that's interesting to hear. You and I have both mentioned this numerous times that when it comes to baseball, you watch your team. And so you see the imperfections of your team, and you're not as dialed into the Dodgers on a nightly basis or the Mets on a nightly basis or whoever, the Brewers. Brewers were crazy good for 5 weeks. And since then it's been like, the Brewers
just got swept.
Yeah, they have some issues now. They got swept by the Rangers?
Yeah.
But in the NFL, like if you're an Eagles fan this morning, right, you just watched Green Bay destroy Detroit and then beat up Washington pretty good last night. Green Bay looks legit. And if you're an Eagles fan, you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, like I see the Packers. But you're like, well, Jordan Love wasn't that good. And, Washington is Jaden Daniels, sophomore, something. You're able to pick apart the other team and make yourself feel better. In baseball, it's harder to do that. And like you look at where the Phillies are at, they have the best home record in the National League. They have the second best run differential in baseball. They have the second best record in baseball. Like objectively speaking, you can't say that this is not at worst one of the 4 best teams in the sport. And if you just look at the numbers, like they're not lucky to be the second best team in baseball. They're doing it right now without the second best pitcher in the National League.
Yeah. Yeah. And not only that, Bob, I believe they have, and I was trying to find it real quick, but I think that they have the best record against
teams with winning records. Remember that talking point? Like, who did they beat?
Yeah.
Who have they beat?
Yeah, they don't beat anybody. And I'm pretty sure they do have the best record in baseball with against teams with winning records. So that's just another thing. I want to answer this one question, though, before we move on to the next topic. Chris Freed asks, does Bader agree to play under his mutual option for next year, or will he seek a longer contract? The answer to that is there's no way in hell he agrees to abuse. The Phillies would love it. The Phillies would absolutely love it. They'll pick up their end. There's no way Bader agrees because he'll get a multi-year deal that will pay him more than what's left on this contract. Especially the way
and plus, I mean, the reality is not only is he coming into a free agency period where he's playing the best that he's ever played, but I mean, if they win, the value just goes through the roof. And like, he's a guy that probably at the start of the season wasn't thinking about a 3-year deal for $36 million, possibly. Like that was not what was probably on his radar. Is maybe hoping that would be the case, but that wasn't really the bet. And now you wonder, like, what would it take? I know we talked briefly about this the other day. What would it take to get it done? Would it be 2 years, 30? Would it be 3 years, 38? Like, what does that look like? I don't think that you get into a big time, average annual value type of deal, but would you give him $12 or $13 million on a multi-year deal, for 2 or 3 years? Maybe.
It's a great question, but he's another player over 30, right? And you got to think about that.
And that's the other thing too. Like, it's easy right now. You just beat up the Mets. Everyone's feeling good. Get back to me in a month too. Like if the Phillies go out in 3 games or whatever it is next month, we're all going to go, all right, like they're old. We got to move on. Let's turn the page. So like, that's not a decision that should be made in this moment. But to the question, I don't see the mutual option at all. He will get multiple years at least $12 million a year.
Yeah, I agree. I want to talk about Duran. right? Because you talked about how awesome he was last night.
Yeah.
He struck out the side in the 9th inning, blew away 2, 3, and 4 in that lineup. Soto, Alonso, Vientos.
Can I
Like,
just quickly just say
Yeah.
that was awesome, but Monday night was awesome because that was the game that you're like, here we go. Like,
yeah,
and he was able to miss bats and get out of that as well. Like, it's a good week for him.
it was, but I want to talk about why. And I'm glad Smy Guy mentions this. He throws it up. He says, knuckle curve was filthy. So here's the thing. And I want to credit JT primarily, but the team, like the pitching staff, pitching coaches, the catchers in the room and the planning thing, everybody. They really said, look, you throw a third pitch. It's a big difference in velocity from the other 2 pitches you throw. Why not throw it more? And Duran, basically, I asked Duran about it. And he says, yeah, if they call it, I just throw it. He's like, whatever. He's like, whatever JT flashes down, I'm going to throw. Like, he's not questioning what the Phillies are asking for. And what they've basically turned him into is a pitcher who now keeps batters off balance this week. And that makes now all of a sudden, if everything's 99 to 102, and you keep saying, well, why are they making contact constantly? And it's like, well, yeah, if all they're getting is velocity, they're going to make contact. But now all of a sudden you start throwing something in that's 89, 90, and now you have to kind of guess, am I getting that or am I going to get 102? Now the batter's off balance. Now it's much more dangerous, and now he's that much more effective.
Yeah.
And so the Phillies are making him an even better reliever than he was coming in here. And the best part about it is, Bob, he still hasn't walked anybody. He's been here over a month, 5 weeks, and still has not walked a batter.
Yeah, so with the Phillies now, he has made 17 appearances. He's pitched 14 2/3. He's allowed 12 hits, no walks, and 20 strikeouts. Opponents hitting .214 against him, and a lot of that has been extraordinarily weak contact as well.
Yeah.
It's been impressive. That was a different gear last night, and it was exciting to watch. Like, he made his appearance, and everyone's talking about the entrance and how this is really cool, and it kind of was a different look for the Phillies, and he had been good. Like, I'm not saying that he wasn't good prior to this week, but like watching that last night, I said, oh, okay. I mean, you went right through Alonso, you went right through Vientos. I mean, it was good. Okay.
And I really want to kind of real fast, you kind of talk about, the Soto was 3 pitches. He went splitter, curve, fastball out of the zone. Got him swinging at a pitch up at his neck.
Yeah, would he strike out the side on 11 pitches, I believe it was?
Yeah.
I think it was like 3-5-3.
9 were strikes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you make Juan Soto look bad. That's what
weird, man. Like, now they're having a mess of a season, and there's this idea that like Soto has not had a good year for them. Like, you look at those numbers, like, you might say it's hollow. That's fine. I know they're calling Juan Solo and all that stuff, but like,
yeah,
it's a pretty good year. Like, statistically speaking, it's a pretty good year.
Can I say something though?
Go ahead.
The other night, Phillies are up, whatever they were up at that point. I have 6 runs, whatever it was, and I could go back and look through my scorebook and figure out exactly what the score was. He's on second base late in the game. Game doesn't matter.
I know.
And dude's out there stealing third base.
Yeah.
With 2 outs.
Yeah.
Down 5 or 6, whatever they were down. And you're like, what are you doing, dude? Like, you have to have runners on base, first and second, right? 2 outs. Guy, it's a home run. You're kind of back in the game. And you're out there trying to steal third for what? To pad your stats because you're trying to become a 40-40 guy? It's that kind of individualism.
Yeah, I know.
That I think is hurting that team in a lot of ways. More than, I mean, obviously they don't have no pitching. I've been saying that all year. But when your superstar is more concerned about his individual stats than he is about helping the team win in that spot, that's a problem. That's a major problem.
How do you feel about the middle of the order right now? I mean, Kyle Schwarber, it's kind of strange. We talked on Monday about his struggles. I'll say this for him: last 7 games, he's only hitting .240, but the on-base percentage is .424. He's walked 6 times in his last 31 plate appearances. Obviously, the power has not really been there. He hit his 50th the other night. That was an awesome moment, but last 15 games, he had the one for number 50. He had the 4 home run game. Other than that, he hasn't hit one. And you go back over the last 30, he's hitting 204.
I think what you've said, and I'm glad you pointed out the last 7 with all the walks. When Kyle Schwarber starts struggling, I get the sense that he tries to become more patient to get out of it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to say that he tries to become more patient when he sees as many pitches as he does, even when he's hot, right? But I think that he really, really goes up there with a methodical approach when he tries to get out of it, in the sense of, I'm just going to take pitches because I know they're not going to throw me a bunch of strikes, and I'm just going to look for a ball in one spot. If it's there, I'm going to swing at it. If not, I'll take my walk. It'll be fine. And I think that he's just kind of trying to get himself back to where he was before. So do I ultimately worry about him? I don't. And I felt like Bryce Harper made me eat some words last night, because I had texted you that, he's struggling. I had said to Tim Kelly sitting next to me that, maybe he could use a day off because he's really not looked good. And then he went out there and had 2 big hits in the game, and drives in a couple of runs. And so he started to look a little bit better last night.
He's had such a weird year. Like,
yeah,
if you look, so you say like lately, right? Like define lately, like last 30 games, 849 OPS, last 15 games, 805. Like, it's not bad. He's a productive player.
Yeah, I know.
He helps them win. It just hasn't been superstar player.
Correct.
And you're just hoping. I mean, you want to ask me if after all that's happened the last 10 games and where they're at now, like, does it change your outlook? I feel like that they're on the doorstep now. Like, yeah. It's possible. Whereas, like, before I didn't have them getting up the walkway. I had them out in the street. Like, I think they could kick the door down, but Harper has to find the next gear. And that's also under presumption that the outfield's going to continue to increase their productivity. That Bryson Stott is this new version of Bryson Stott that we've seen now for the better part of about 6 weeks. Brandon Marsh continues to make I know that's part of the outfield, but Brandon Marsh continues to make contributions. Like, then I'm in. Like, I can talk myself into it even without Zach Wheeler. And even if Trey Turner doesn't come back and isn't Superman, I can get there. But I feel like it's either Turner has to come back and be Trey Turner at his best, or Harper has to find one more gear. Then I can talk myself into it.
Yeah. As Bamman 100 says, runners in scoring positions, what's been killing Bryce lately. He has struggled with runners on base, although he did get the hit last night down the line. Alonso knocks it down, but I mean, that's a big hit, and you saw him celebrate it like it was a big hit. Like, he was fired up about it. I think that Bryce has gotten a little jumpy, to be honest with you. Like, you talk about the OPS numbers, and they're there. But if you look at those and I don't have it right in front of me, but if you look at his on-base numbers over that same stretch, he's below 300. Like, he's not getting on base.
Let me see. I do have it in front of me. So let's see here. I said I had it in front of me, do I? Yes. Yeah, his last 7 games, a 290 on base. His last 15, 313. His last 30, 328. I mean, that's not what you're accustomed to seeing with him.
Right. He's usually 370 and above.
Yeah, I mean, he's a career 387 on base percentage.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's the thing. So, like, I think that his at-bats are kind of, Ross just says it. He says just rushed his at-bats. And I really do believe that. I think that's a thing. So, Amy, just so you know, we did talk about the awesome outfield. So when we're done the show, go back and watch the beginning and you'll hear us talk about it.
I've always believed in the Phillies outfield.
Yeah. Here's an interesting one from Kevin. And I'd like to address this a little bit. Possibly leaving Bader at the top of the order, even when Turner comes back.
Go ahead. I wouldn't, but I get it.
I wouldn't either because just Turner was so good in that role. I think Bader can provide you just as the same thing that he's providing you somewhere else in the lineup, and it makes it a longer lineup. Yeah. Turner, just put Turner back where he was successful.
Yeah, especially because not that Real Muto's been bad, but like Real Muto's cooled a little bit now. Like, yeah, I just feel like you need Bader hitting in the middle back part of that lineup to lengthen things out a little bit. That's my hunch in the moment.
I agree with you.
All right. I am on a little bit of a time crunch here. I don't know if there's anything else you felt like we had to talk about with the Mets series.
Otto Kemp?
Yeah, good for Otto Kemp. I don't like Otto Kemp. That hit last night won them the game. I mean, if he
Yeah.
doesn't if he doesn't start that, I don't think that they catch any momentum and come back into that game. I think that's when we say we did what we needed to do. Great series. Let's move forward. Couple big hits for him in this series. I don't think that Otto Kemp is a starter, like an everyday guy, even beyond this year, like, looking forward, like what do they have in him? But he's acquitted himself as a useful piece, I think.
Does he make the playoff roster?
I don't know. I mean, you've probably performed that exercise more than I have at this point.
I think there's a chance he makes the division series roster because you can go with one less pitcher because it's only a 5-game series, right? And there's an extra day off, so your bullpen is never going to be – they're always going to be rested. As far as beyond that, I do think that he would probably need somebody to be injured. To make the
I don't think he'd be a part of it this year. And I don't know how you factor in his potential contributions next year. Like, my sense is that he's a Major League Baseball player.
Yes.
I just don't know that I would want to rely on him in a meaningful way for an extended period of time. But in terms of, plugging holes, a guy like Bohm goes down, can you survive with him? Yeah, absolutely. He's done more than enough to show that he can do that.
He could be a bench guy, gives you 250 at bats a year.
Yeah.
And be very useful. I do think that. So that was the other thing on Otto Kemp. All right. I know you got to get out of here. So let's do one last thing.
I do. The only other thing I want to do is just look at this weekend. I think that the Royals are going to win 2 out of 3 this weekend against the Phillies.
Pitching is not great, though, for them.
No, it's not, but it's not great for the Phillies either, especially if you don't know what you're getting out of Aaron Nola on Sunday. I mean, you're going to get Walker Buehler tonight, which I guess we'll see. I mean, I think that there could be 2 very different extreme outcomes in that start. You get Walker, who, I mean, like, come on, let's be honest, what's he going to do? Give up 4 runs in the first 2 innings and then probably get them through 6. And, it's 6 innings, 4 earned, 7 hits, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Like, and I'm not saying they can't win because of that, but like, I don't feel great about that. And this Cameron kid, the lefty that the Royals are going to throw on Sunday, has been pretty decent. I don't know, man. Like, I just feel like a little bit of a letdown spot unless you so much believe that the Phillies are like, we want to finish this deal this weekend. And then we can talk on Monday. Hey, not have the Phillies peak too soon, but
I can get behind the letdown. But at the same time, you also have an opportunity here to make the Dodger series less relevant. Right?
Is that really in the Phillies' nature?
It's not. And that's why I think you might
be honest with you. Like,
you might be right because of that.
What's the more likely scenario on Monday? Like, Phillies are up 3 or are they up 5.5?
Right.
I mean, maybe it really is different. I think we're in store for some drama and some tense moments next week. That's my guess, but we'll see.
That's good. It's better. It's good for me. I'll be.
But you look at it. I guess I have my football brain rolling right now. I'm just like, huge series. You're coming off of a sweep. You're looking ahead to a huge series. You're in this little bit of a sandwich spot. Your pitching's not great. The Royals aren't bad. They're not awesome, but like, they're functional. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I probably would lean a lot more your way if this was a road series. Phillies have just been fantastic at home.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just so good at Citizens Bank Park. And so like that's the one thing that makes me say I would probably go 2 out of 3 in favor of the Phillies as opposed to the other way around. But I'm perfectly, I can see how you would go 2 out of 3 for the Royals. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and the Royals are a game over, 4-6 in their last 10. They kind of feels like they faded out of a playoff run here. Like, they're kind of just not close enough. So I don't know how dialed in they are. I don't know if you're going to get their best shot because this is sort of their last shot to go. We'll see what happens. What's interesting though is you start looking around those standings, and to your credit, you sniffed this one out a while ago, but start to look at that wild card now, and it's funny to say like, well, hey, look, the Phillies sort of wrapped up the division, but what they've also done is put the Mets in a very, very shaky spot now, where they're clinging, and you've got the Reds right on their heels, and you've got the San Francisco Giants right on their heels, and that is especially of interest to the Phillies, the Giants, because with a good weekend this weekend, the Giants can not only essentially lock up a Phillies bye, but they can also potentially put the Mets out of the playoffs. I mean, like,
well,
that's
and not only that. So here's the thing with the Giants have. It's working to their advantage. They're 2 games behind the Mets. Yeah, they still have to catch them, and that's, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do. 7 games left against the Dodgers. If you're the Giants and you do well against the Dodgers and get yourself into the playoffs, you're going to play the Dodgers again. So there's a real opportunity here for the Dodgers and Giants to play like 10 times in the next 3 weeks. And that would make for a really wild scenario in the playoffs, especially if they meet up in a 3-game series, leading into, and then the winner having to fly cross country to play the Phillies after that. That there's a lot that can really work in the Phillies' favor with the San Francisco Giants. And it's what I asked for 2 weeks ago when I brought that up is now here. And so it's on the Giants now to kind of make it come to fruition.
And then the other really interesting series is the Mets. I mean, now you have the Rangers coming to New York.
DeGrom tonight.
DeGrom versus the kid, what's his name, Tong or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a really important series for both of these teams. The Rangers are 7 games over 500. They're 2 games out of a wild card spot. Like, both of these teams are playing for their postseason lives here this weekend. This is a crucial series for both of these teams. So not only do you get the Phillies, but you really, if you're a baseball fan and if you're a Phillies fan, you can start to really look at the scoreboard and say, wow, these games have huge importance.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, video guy Amadeo points out, hey, they won 2 out of 3 in Miami between the Milwaukee and the Mets.
True. So that is true.
There's that. And Smy Guy's asking us to shout out his friends who are going to watch us later. So shout out to Zach and Ferb. Hey, Zach and Ferb. Good to
nice.
We'll see you. All right. One last thing. This is kind of related to the Phillies, but kind of not. I wanted to kind of bring it up just because I thought it was such a great thing. Tim Kelly was asking Walker Buehler. I don't know if you saw the video clip, but asked Walker Buehler yesterday about pitching in AAA and then having the ABS system, the challenge system for the strike zone. And Walker Buehler absolutely obliterated it. Said it's terrible, that the cameras are not lined up properly in every stadium, so they don't get it right. Like really just crazy. It's crazy bad, and it should not come into the major leagues. It sounds like it's coming regardless, but do you see this as maybe potentially being problematic going forward? Is this something that baseball is going to look at and be like, oh man, we regret
careful what you wish for? Maybe look at if the tech is not right, if it's not reliable, and the players who are seasoned veterans, no less, are saying, look, this just doesn't feel accurate, then that's going to create a problem. Now, I believe in his comments, he also said something to the effect of like certain pitchers get pitches.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not in on that. Like that's not it anymore. Like, I go back to coaching and be like, if there were 2 programs, one is a program that you expect to be really good. This was a go-to line of mine with umpires. Like, hey, I know they're good. I know they're supposed to be better than us, but like, they don't get that pitch just because they are who they are. Like that's like a little, like that's like a little entitled. I don't agree with that. Like, it's a strike or it's not a strike.
Yeah. I'm in agreement with you there. Like, I don't believe in the whole, oh, well, this guy is he's been around and he's earned an extended strike zone.
That extra 4 inches off the plate. Like,
I'm not with you. I'm not with him on that at all. But I am with him on the human element is part of the game of baseball. That part I am with him on. It always has been part of the game of baseball, and why we should change. I'm not a big fan of changing it. I understand replay. I still think replay gets stuff wrong. Like, I think there's times I watch a replay and go, oh yeah, and they still get it wrong, and it's like, how do you get it wrong? I just watched the replay.
I just think that if you go to a full tech system, I kind of disagree with that, because like at the core of it, like I do agree that there's a human element to the game and it's very important to the game. that being said, like in a crucial moment, like Angel Hernandez should not have, or used to have the ability. He's not anymore, but he should not have the ability to call a pitch that's 8 inches out of the zone for strike 3. Like that's not part of the game. That's not good for the sport. So like I see both sides, because it is a careful what you wish for situation, and you are starting to go too far away from what has been the historical DNA of the sport. Like I'm with you on that, but is there an in-between? Like, where do you draw that line?
Yeah, and I'm okay with an in-between. I'm okay with a challenge system as long as it's not abused. What I don't like right now that I think that they do too much, Bob, is they give the teams too much leeway on how much time they have to review a call before they have to say whether to challenge.
I think the Phillies were late earlier this week with a review, and they got away with it.
Like, if you want to make a challenge it. Like, don't give me 20
There's
seconds.
Part of me that actually doesn't think that you should be able. I know in football you can, and I think that that's fine. But for some reason in baseball, like the whole and then turning around and going like this, I think it's like kind of like a clown show. To me, it's like, do you think the call's wrong? Challenge it.
Challenge it. Yes, right away. Just challenge it right away. And that's it. And put it on the manager. Make it something strategic. Let the manager make that call.
Yeah. Or are you good at challenging it, or are you not?
Right. Yeah.
I'm with you on that. But then again, like you say, like the human element, like and this isn't the first time we've mentioned this guy on this show, but like ask Armando Galarraga how he feels about the human element of baseball, So I mean, it's an interesting talking point. And what I think is the most important thing out of what Walker Buehler said was that he is probably not alone in this sentiment. So it's not just like that there's this universal acceptance that this is going to be great for the sport and everything's going to be better now.
Yeah, absolutely.
That guy, his opinion, his words do carry some degree of weight given who he is and some of the success he's had throughout his career.
Yeah. By the way, Armando Galarraga, I'm glad you mentioned him. Last weekend I went up to Cooperstown with my dad and the boys. They include him in the perfect game display.
Good.
So good on Cooperstown. Good on Cooperstown for doing that. By the way, if you haven't been up there, make the trip.
Dude, I haven't been up there since I was like 8. I went with my family. My mom and dad took me, and it was like kind of not a great trip. We stayed in like a motel that was a little outside the town that was a total dump. It was like one of those ones where we're going to come home with bed bugs. And I know you can be clean and get bed bugs, I know.
Yeah.
But it was like one of those ones where you're like, we need to fumigate the car. And it just was not a good trip. And I've always said, if we go back to Cooperstown, we got to find the nicest hotel and have a first-rate experience.
Do what we did. We got an Airbnb, and it was a beautiful home. It was awesome. We were 10 minutes outside of town, and then the town of Cooperstown itself is great. It's everything.
And adult me hears that there's some drinking options up there that I might.
Yes, there are some drinking options up there.
That is on the to-do list. I might wait for my son to get a little older. He's sort of not into the sports yet. So, but
but it's definitely worth it for the fans watching. If you haven't been, take a week. It's only you only need one day at the hall. You don't need more than a day. So just it's a weekend trip. You go up Friday night, hit a bar, spend all day Saturday at the Hall of Fame, do a nice dinner afterwards, and drive back Sunday. That's what we did. That's all you need to do. But it's a great day to go to Cooperstown and spend a day at the Hall of Fame.
Very cool.
All right, let me get us out of here because I know you gotta run. Thanks again to everyone for tuning in to this episode of Fighting Words. Don't forget you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, wherever you get your podcast. Best place right here on YouTube. Subscribe to us. Click that thumbs up. Ring the bell. You'll get an alert whenever Bob and I go live. Even when we have tech problems, you'll still get the alert because the tech problems are usually ours and not yours. And if you're listening in the podcast feed, make sure you don't ever miss a show by finding us on YouTube at youtube.com/@fightingwords. For Bob Wankel, I'm Anthony Sanfilippo saying have a great weekend, everybody. We're going to do this on Monday. I don't know, Bob. I guess we're going to have to get up at the crack of dawn out in Los Angeles to make it work. We'll figure that out. We'll figure out how to do that on Monday. But we'll be back on Monday to talk about the Royals series and to look ahead at the big Phillies-Dodgers matchup next week from out at Dodger Stadium. So for Bob, I'm Anthony saying have a great weekend, everybody.